Hello Kitty, Cinema Roll, My Melody, Keroppi, Pom Pom Pudding, Kuromi, Tuxedo-san, Batsmaru. The list goes on. Sanrio is a worldwide juggernaut of cute characters and merchandising. It's hard to go to any store these days and not see Sanrio represented in some way, shape, or form. The Hello Kitty brand is so ubiquitous at this point that she has been elevated to pop culture's staple, recognizable by anyone on the street, and that makes the origins of Sanrio's first forays into cinema that much more interesting. Founded by Shintaro Tsuji in 1960, Sanrio was originally known as Yamanashi Silk Company and was rebranded in 1970. Sanrio was known for their distribution of Peanuts products in Japan until 1973, when they decided to create their own characters in order to avoid licensing fees. Founded on one mantra, Nakoyoku, or getting along together in English, their website states, "Everyone wants to be happy. It is a fundamental human desire. But what is true happiness?" This becomes the driving force behind modern-day Sanrio, finding joy in bringing it to the masses, primarily through cute, marketable characters that appeal to children and adults worldwide. Hello Kitty made her debut in March 1975 on the side of a vinyl coin purse. That same year, Sanrio began production on their first animated film. Hello Kitty, right? Nope. She wouldn't receive an animation debut until 1981's stop-motion feature, Kitty and Mimi's Umbrella. A dog named Joe, an elephant named Jumbo, and a lamb named Chirin would be the stars of Sanrio's first 3 animated works. I'm sure you recognize all 3 of those since I mentioned them earlier when I was listing off all the characters. Wait, I didn't? You're telling me these aren't classic Sanrio characters? So who are they? Why has Sanrio essentially erased these cute, marketable characters from their modern-day lineup? And who is the man who created these characters along with the first 3 Sanrio animated pictures? I'd like to invite you into the melancholic, beautiful, and sometimes traumatizing world of Takashi Yanase and the origins of Sanrio film. Takashi Yanase was born February 6, 1919. He studied at the Tokyo School of Arts and Crafts until 1941, when he was drafted into the army during the Second World War. During this period, Yanase would go through much hardship, witness many horrors, and lose his younger brother during the Pacific Campaign. Afterwards, he worked in waste disposal before moving to Tokyo and working on graphic design for various publications. He published a collection of stories in 1971 titled 12 Pearls. These stories would go on to be the prototypes for his works such as Anpanman, Ringing Bell, and The Rose and Joe. He achieved widespread fame when his picture book Anpanman, a 1973 expansion of his original story, became a hit amongst kindergartners, eventually getting a television show that still runs to this day. Anpanman was derived from Yanase's experiences during and after the war. He saw and experienced how famine and poverty affected those during the war, especially children. He saw portrayals of superheroes like Superman and wondered if there was a way to create someone who could save the impoverished and starving individuals of post-war Japan. His solution was a man made of anpan, a bread filled with red bean paste, a staple of Japanese snacks and something Yanase envisioned both rich and poor alike could bond over. It was important for Yanase to emphasize the futility of fighting and war and stated, "There is no justice in battle. The true heroes are those that sacrifice themselves to help the hungry." The original story of Anpanman had him finding a starving man wandering the desert, and rather than flying the man to safety, Anpanman allows him to eat a large portion of his head so that he can survive. Afterwards, he flies home to his father, a baker, who would restore his body, allowing him to repeat the process. Modern iterations of Anpanman have him battle bacteria, diseases, and bad nutrition, teaching children the importance of healthy diets. Anpanman has become synonymous with children in Japan, being marketed and put on any and every piece of merchandise imaginable. He is rivaled by only a few other uniquely Japanese mascots, including Astro Boy and Doraemon, and is the 6th highest grossing franchise in the world, with a lifetime gross of $38.4 billion according to Yahoo Japan. This makes his only Japanese competition Pokemon with its $88 billion income. The wild thing about Anpanman is that he is a uniquely Eastern Asian character and has little to no presence in the Western world, despite being such a huge franchise and moneymaker. Most Western audiences would only recognize his theme song from Taiko Drum Master or that viral video of a guy in costume going way too hard while playing the Anpanman March for preschoolers. For comparison, Sanrio's ubiquitous Hello Kitty is only estimated to have around $28.8 billion in revenue despite her being a worldwide sensation, unlike Anpanman. Takashi Yanase's work was far more extensive and interesting than just Anpanman though. He published a plethora of poetry and prose as well as numerous other picture books. Today, I wanted to look at 4 works adapted from his picture books. One by Tezuka's Mushi Pictures, and the other 3 the first 3 films of Sanrio Film. The Kindly Lion was published in 1969. The same year, production of the short film occurred at Tezuka's first animation studio, Mushi Productions. Yanase directed the work by himself with a small team of animators. The narrator and singer is Eiko Masuyama, most well known for her role as Fujiko Mine in Lupin III. Masuyama would also be the female narrator and singer for the next 2 movies, Little Jumbo and The Rose and Joe. The Kindly Lion tells the story of Buru Buru, a lion cub whose mother died during his birth, leaving him an orphan. He is paired with a dog named Muku Muku, who just lost her puppy and bonds with the lion cub like she would her own babe. The first thing audiences will notice is that there is not only a narrator to the story, but also a small child asking questions to said narrator.
昔、ある国のある動物園に一匹の孤児のライオンがいました。孤児って何？お父さんもお母さんもいないみなしごのことよ。
This is an interesting choice and one that is not present in the original picture book. The dog and lion cub live in an open grazing zoo, and we get a musical montage as Muku Muku sings a lullaby to her new baby. Feeding him milk and watching him grow.
ブルブルはたちまち太りました。この頃に太りました。よちよち歩き始めました。むくむくとブルブルブルブルとむくむくむくむくとブルブルブルブルとむくむく
Buru Buru begins to act like a dog, kind and gentle. He is afraid of bugs and enjoys bouncing around with rabbits. He gets the first reprise of Buru Buru's theme as he becomes a fully grown lion.
ブルブルはどんどん大きくなってお母さんよりも大きい立派なライオンになりました。ムクムクは？ムクムクは年を取りました。 でもまだとても元気でした。
もうブルブルはムクムクよりも強いね。
走れブルブル、金色の風のように走れブルブル、光る矢のように走れブルブル走れ、たてがみを波かせて走れ走れ走れ走れ走れブルブル走れ。
After a horrible rainstorm, puddles cover the ground and Buru sees his own reflection for the first time. He is distraught that he looks nothing like his mother. Muku reassures him that there is nothing wrong.
ムクムクは
ムクムクはこう言ったの。私とあなたは確かに見た目は違うけれど、心の中は同じですよって。
心の中？
そう。ムクムクは心のことが一番大切で、見せかけなんて問題にしてなかったの。例えばブルブルがもしカバの形でもやっぱり可愛がったでしょうね。
本当の親子よりももっと仲良し、毎日とても幸せで。
The owners of the zoo separate Muku and Buru because Buru has grown too large and lions can't be kept with dogs. Years pass and we are told that his mother Muku ran away from the zoo and the fully grown lion Buru is now performing in a circus. He refuses to speak because he is filled with a horrible sadness, forgetting a time when he was truly happy. One night he hears the sound of his mother's lullaby drifting on the air. Upon hearing the song, he begins barking like a dog and breaks from his cage, running into the town searching for Muku. The police chase the lion through the town as he runs through walls, breaks into the homes of innocent bystanders, and searches for his mother. He finds her on the edge of the wood, thin and frail. He nuzzles his mother as they are finally reunited, but the police are right behind and fire their weapons on Buru and Muku.
撃ってはいけないのに、ブルブルはとても優しいライオンです。撃ってはいけない。やめて。
泣いてはダメよ。
だってとても優しいライオンなのに。
The narrator says that lions who escape their cages must be killed to protect the humans of the town, and reassures the questioning child that there were paw prints going off onto the horizon. We are left with Buru running through the skies, mimicking the opening with the cloud of his birth mother. His theme plays for a final time as the chorus encourages him to run, Buru, run.
走れ走れ走れ走れ走れブルブル走れ。
It's a perplexing work primarily due to its audience, children. The majority of children's stories have clear morals or messages that are easy to convey to younger audiences. However, as it will become apparent with all of Yanase's works besides Anpanman, this is not the case. This lack of a clear message is both what makes these works so special, but also what seems to upset people about them. Many readers and viewers of these films find them confusing or purposefully upsetting with no purpose. The primary example being one we will cover later, Yanase's most popular work, Chirin Spell. The ambiguity and melancholy of these stories are what make them unique and emotionally powerful. The story opens with the loss of a mother and child, but it is through this loss that Buru and Muku are able to find one another, something that changes them both forever. Muku Muku's influence on Buru Buru turns him into a gentle creature, something that defies his natural instincts, something that is displayed as a net positive but ultimately leads to his death. This is addressed by the narrator and questioning child when the kid asks,
なぜ？
それはね、この世の中が人間のために都合のいいようにできているからよ。
No explanation of this kind is provided in the original picture book and was added in order to try to assuage any distraught children. In fact, I ordered reprints of Yanase's picture books that were released for the 10-year anniversary of his death. Please help, I do not have enough financial self-control for this hobby and will order a collection of Japanese picture books just so I can compare them to their animated counterparts. There's a full scan of Chirin's Bell on archive.org as well as Yanase's poetry, but the other books are only available physically or through Japanese children's book YouTube channels. I didn't find out the latter part until after I purchased the books, so don't chastise me on that one. At least I can enjoy the pretty art of the physical editions. The other major change besides the addition of the reflection scene is the omission of Muku Muku from the final imagery. In the original picture book, we clearly see Buru Buru running into the stars with Muku Muku on his back, with the text that says, "Some say a lion with a dog on its back can be seen running through the sky." But in the animated version, we simply have Buru Buru running with his theme music leading into the credits. I find the imagery of the picture book to be far preferable to that of the animated feature. The idea that the two are together, playing amongst the stars, is a heartfelt, optimistic take that many of us embody when remembering loved ones that have passed. They may be gone, but maybe somewhere they're still happy and, more importantly, together. However, by having Buru Buru forever running in the animated version, it feels as though he can never escape the stigmas of being an unnatural lion. He will always be running, looking for his mother alone. It's a small change that has a giant impact on the final message of the story. Overall, I think the animation is a beautiful translation of the picture book and is still able to maintain the melancholy tone while making it digestible for children. The film itself was a critical success and won the 8th Noboru Ofuji Award at the Minok Film Concours. However, the short has never been released outside Japan and is only available to view through fan translations in places like YouTube. This is going to be a common occurrence with all of these until we get to Chirin's Bell. In fact, the next two works don't even have Wikipedia pages as of April 2024, despite being the first two animated films created by Sanrio. The first Sanrio film animation was released in 1977, a short written and directed by Takashi Yanase. In a 1979 article published in Gekkan Animation, Tsunemasa Hanato discussed the origins of the film division and production plans for various waves of movies. Films for the first phase included The Rose and Joe, Little Jumbo, The Fantastic Adventures of the Mouse and His Child, Chirin's Bell, The Winds of Change, and 2 live-action films. Who are the D-Bolts and where did they get 19 kids? And The Arctic Fox. You want me to talk about the D-Bolts and their 19 children? It won an Oscar. No, I'm not elaborating. If you're interested, go check out the article that partially inspired this video written by Chris Person. It chronicles every film made by Sanrio, both animated and live action. Link in the bio. Hanato stated the studio's plans for their film projects. "We have no intent to make TV anime. We'll take our time and make high-quality films. Any profit will be made in the long run as those films are seen by many people over the years. Our philosophy is, films are our fortune." The article clarifies the meaning behind his words by elaborating. Sanrio's aim is to produce films which the next generation can still find entertaining. In other words, films which stand up to the test of time. Sanrio wanted to be Disney. They wanted blockbuster animation that they could release in theaters every decade or so in order to accrue revenue from one product. Note that these plans were made in the 70s before the explosion of home media that would occur in the 80s and 90s. Seeing that the studio shut down in 1985 and the majority of their releases have been lost to the obscurity of time, they did not become the next Disney. These aspirations are extremely elucidating to the kind of material they wanted to create, however. The studio wanted to create classics that would defy genre and time, allowing audiences to grow with the works. Therefore, Yanase's selection as the writer and director of the first few films makes all the more sense. His thematically dense and ambiguous works could grow on the audience and resonate with both children and adults. His adaptation of The Kindly Lion was already a critical success, and his Anpanman books and comics were insanely popular at the time, making him one of the largest Japanese voices in children's media. So of course the choice for the first Sanrio film was obvious. Wait, it's an obscure poem from one of Yanase's books of poetry about a dog falling in love with a rose? What?
After these messages, be right back.
はじける笑顔、楽しさあふれるエンターテインメントの連続。ここは愛と夢、優しい気持ちに会える国、ハーモニーランド。毎日上演される数々のライブショーが、楽しさいっぱいのアトラクションの数々が、きっと素敵な一日をみんなにプレゼントしてくれることでしょう。さあ、あなたも感動を見つけにハーモニーランドへご家族揃って出かけてみませんか？
The Rose and Joe is the first and the shortest of Sanrio's Yanase pictures. It chronicles the love between a young dog named Joe and the love of his life, a rose. Film opens in winter with snowy fields and literal snow caps as spring rolls in. Yanase really likes these little bowler hats and uses them pretty often in his imagery. We're introduced to Joe and his love for the rose, followed by a musical montage in the style of Yanase's storybooks.
君は美しい真っ赤なバラの花あんまり違いすぎるバラは風に歌った私はジョーが好きよ心の底から好きよバラの花とジョーバラの花とジョー
This marks the first large shift in animation style, which is another trend we'll see in the upcoming works. Afterwards, we're introduced to the primary antagonist, a black crow who wants to destroy the rose's beautiful petals. These two give me Woodstock and Snoopy vibes. Joe takes down the crow and scares him off. He swears to fight off any enemy of the rose and to protect her forever. After a dream sequence of Joe practicing his high diving, the crow returns along with a horrible storm. Summer storms begin to assault the two. Nature itself seems to be trying Joe and the rose as it electrocutes the dog and tries to blow the rose away. Joe is steadfast and protects his beloved rose from the harsh elements only to be attacked by the three crows. He manages to take down two in some Looney Tune antics, but the black crow attacks when Joe lets his guard down, slashing him across the eyes.
Joe! 危ない!
Joe, now blinded, still manages to fend off his attacker before fainting.
ジョー、素敵。そうさ、僕は強いんだ。
Joe dreams of flying upon the back of a beautiful swan before gazing upon the rose who has eclipsed the horizon. Fall is ushered in with warm tones and fallen leaves, revealing that Joe, now blind, has a pair of shades. He runs through the dying landscape before encountering his nemesis, the black crow. The two fight on a log bridge, and Joe pulls him down into a raging rapids. Black Crow is finally defeated, and a beaten, battered Joe is called on by the wind, the voice of his beloved Rose. He collapses at her base, and she apologizes for the loss of his sight. He declares that he can only smell her better. She asks if, in his mind's eye, he can still see her, still in full bloom. But in reality, her petals are gone, and she too is dying. The lovers go into their final sleep as a blanket of snow envelops the countryside. The final musical number reveals that the Rose lied, telling Joe they could die together, but it was already too late and Joe had already passed. The two float off on a cloud, united in death. It is a similar ending to The Kindly Lion, but without the child's questioning and no easy answers for the audience. It's a bold way to start your animation studio, a piece that focuses on the author's vision and the message of pure love that is in constant contention with nature. The crow seems overtly cruel, as if it only finds joy in the destruction of someone else's happiness. There is no clear explanation for the crow's hatred, just as there is no clear explanation for the love between a dog and a rose. The crow's hatred eventually leads to its own demise, as it continues to attack Joe until they both fall into a ravine. The crow dies, but Joe persists, driven by his love for the rose. It is a power that drives him and keeps him optimistic no matter the situation. Be he blind or near death, it's a story of how love persists beyond the limitations of nature and society. The crow is swept away by the river, the landscape enters another winter slumber, and the rose and Joe are united together in the stars. I promise this is the last ending where the characters are united through death. The other endings are arguably more bleak or depressing. But look how cute they are!
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Little Jumbo is the second film in the Sanrio trilogy and is also based on a picture book by Takashi Yanase titled Goodbye Jumbo. This was very confusing as I was doing research because the only book I could find titled Little Jumbo was a picture book of the anime, and the only Takashi Yanase book was Goodbye Jumbo, even though his Wikipedia credits them as separate books. Turns out they just changed the title when adapting it into a movie. Little Jumbo opens with animated butterflies and birds, simple moving lines and shapes across the screen. We're introduced to Beautiful Island, where food grows on trees and the residents live lavish lives of laziness because they are always full. The king of Beautiful Island demands respect, even though he's just as goofy as everyone else on the island. He commands his people to clean, and we get a musical number chastising the civilians for never doing anything with their lives. A large red box washes ashore with two outsiders inside, a boy named Baloo and his elephant Jumbo. The island transforms into a stage as Baloo and Jumbo perform for the people, showing off their tricks. Baloo sings a song about his whip, which is used for making sound and never for violence. In fact, the sound of the whip makes Jumbo happy because it means he gets a treat for doing a trick. Everyone on the island welcomes them. They dance and sing.
僕らはみんな生きている生きているから歌うんだ僕らはみんな生きている生きているから悲しんだ手のひらを太陽に透かしてみれば真っ赤に流れる僕の人
One day, everyone is lounging around when the sky is blacked out by a huge flock of birds. They cry and flee something terrible.
Miro, miro, それは鳥の大群だ.
The king notices that two nearby island nations have begun shooting missiles at each other. It's a horrible war and Beautiful Island is caught in the crossfire. Beautiful Island's theme is reprised as we watch it destroyed by the ongoing war and left a desolate wasteland. The king declares he will take care of his subjects, but there is no food or water, and the sky has been blacked out by pollution. His only solution is to kill Jumbo. Baloo begs the king not to hurt Jumbo, but the king says he must prioritize the lives of his subjects over an elephant. Baloo says that he understands and requests that he be the one to kill Jumbo so that little Jumbo doesn't feel pain. As Baloo approaches Jumbo with his whip, the elephant is filled with joy and simply wants to play. His eyes, full of sweet ignorance, stare straight through Baloo, causing him to break down and throw away his whip. He begs the king not to hurt Jumbo and offers himself up as food for everyone on the island. The king admits he was wrong, and suddenly the two islands are raging another horrible battle. When all hope is lost and it looks like they're about to be hit by missiles, Jumbo uses his juggling ability to catch the explosives mid-air and takes them away from his friends. The two nations destroy one another with what appear to be nuclear weapons. And Beautiful Island is rendered a complete wasteland. Baloo finds Jumbo's body and cries as he reminisces on happier times.
Jumbo! Jumbo!
A ray of sunshine seemingly brings Jumbo back from the dead, and everyone sings joyously because they have survived. They sing because they are alive.
僕らはみんな 生きている生きているから嬉しいんだ
Beautiful Island begins to heal, and the once flat birds are revealed to have returned, but now with more depth. Everyone bandaged and broken gather under a rainbow and watch the stars, happy to be alive. Little Jumbo is the most faithful adaptation of any Yanase's works. It is also the most overt with its anti-war messaging, choosing to show the effects of war on innocents uninvolved in the conflict. While Lion and Joe had sad endings, the twist for Jumbo comes at the halfway mark and drastically changes the tone of the work. The carefree lives of the characters are upturned by warring nations that they didn't even know existed beforehand. This creates conflict amongst the characters, forcing them to lengths no one should have to go to. It is hard to ignore the imagery of the whip, an item that is initially viewed as an innocent noisemaker, but later revealed to be a device to enforce violence. The whip embodies a sense of dramatic irony. We, the audience, realize the horrible implications of the whip, but the characters seem blissfully ignorant to its implications, until the horrors of war set in. It displays how war changes the characters, stealing their innocence and youth and forcing them to confront the grim reality that is forced upon them, and the lengths that they could go in order to survive. Baloo ultimately cannot take Jumbo's life, and would rather sacrifice himself, but we never find out what would happen, because the nations decide to eliminate one another before the characters are forced to horrible actions. Jumbo, remaining perpetually ignorant, tries to save everyone by doing what he always does: play. He juggles the missiles, not knowing their danger, and is seemingly resurrected for his pure innocence. But the humans are forever changed. Baloo throws away his whip and renounces violence, and the other inhabitants of the island help nurse Jumbo back to health. They are united in their love for life and reminded of that love through the pain that they have endured. Though we may feel the pain, that pain means we are alive, and therefore that pain must inherently be part of what makes life worth living.
After these messages, be right back.
シナモンからメールが届く。メール交換できちゃうメルプチ、プチパッドもね。
Konami.
And now, back to the show.
Ringing Bell, Chirin no Bell, or Chirin's Bell, is the third film by Sanrio Film and arguably the most famous. Well, infamous. Many videos and articles have covered this picture as a children's horror movie or the most traumatic kids movie ever. They all use the same image of Chirin's shocked face, too. It is based on yet another book by Yanase, this one published the same year as the movie, and originally based on a story from his poetry book. The movie opens with a song that uses the first two lines of Yanase's book, juxtaposing the innocence of the bell with the bleak reminder of death, foreshadowing what is to come. Chirin marks the biggest departure stylistically from Yanase's storybook, and is full Sanrio cuteness. He is an adorable little newborn lamb who wears a bell so that his mother can easily find him. She warns him never to go beyond the fence, because a wolf named Woe lives upon the mountain and eats the meat of sheep. Chirin agrees to his mother's wish, but quickly gets distracted by a bunny and runs off to play. One autumn night, a wolf breaks into the barn and begins killing the sheep. Chirin's mother uses her body to protect her son and is killed by the ferocious Woe. Chirin, not realizing his mother is dead, tries to wake her up to no avail.
かな。ねえ起きてよ。お母さん起きて。嫌だ。死んじゃ嫌だお母さん。死んじゃ嫌だ嫌だ。お母さん死んじゃ嫌だ。
Chirin wants to understand the injustice and why his mother had to die, so he storms off to the mountain to confront Woe. The little lamb attacks the wolf, only to be flicked away by his tail. The next morning, Chirin begs Woe to make him a student so that he can grow strong and become a wolf. Woe ignores him, but Chirin is dedicated to becoming a wolf.
羊の分際で何をほざく。
僕は狼になりたいんだ。
おとなしく牧場へ帰って丸々と太るんだ。その時はお前を食べに行ってやろう。
そんなの嫌だ。
Going out of his way to harass a bunch of bison, get farted on by a skunk, and humiliated by just about every other animal he comes across. Chirin follows Woe and studies how he battles bears and kills his prey. Chirin almost dies trying to follow Woe across a river, but still manages to find him, his bell constantly ringing during his relentless pursuit. Chirin sees a snake kill a bird for its eggs, and then he fights off the snake, Chirin accidentally destroying the eggs in the tussle. Woe sees this and tries to explain to Chirin that the weak must die for the strong to live.
戦うことなんてできない。
そんなお前がなぜ狼になろうとしたのだ。
悔しかったんだ。牧場の小さな小屋の中でこそこそ生きていくだけなんて嫌だ。僕は何もしないで殺されて死ぬなんて嫌だ。
泣くがいい。その悔しさがやがてお前の牙になる。
牙？僕の牙？
そうだ、チリン。生きることは悲しみを知ること。その悲しみで心の牙を研ぐのだ。
And finally agrees to fully train Chirin. The lamb loudly proclaims that once he is strong enough, he will fight and defeat Woe, avenging his mother. Chirin's persistence is shown as he runs into a tree over and over again until he is finally able to render it in two. He slowly begins to grow horns as we get a musical montage of him progressively becoming stronger. We get a surreal stylized moment bathed in blood and song as Chirin fully transforms into a fierce ram with sharpened horns that point forward like weapons. The once cute art style is now bleak, dark, and decrepit. Next we get the biggest change between the animated work and the picture book. Chirin tells Woe how he feels that he has been reborn and sees Woe as his new father.
僕にはできなかった。僕はこの山で生まれ変わったのだ。今やお前は僕のお父さんとさえ思える。
As a final test, Woe takes him back to the pasture where he was born and tells Chirin that they are going to attack and slaughter every sheep. Chirin easily disposes of the guard dogs and goes on to kill the sheep in the barn. However, he is confronted with the image of a mother using her body to shield her babe. He cannot go through with the final test. Instead, he turns on Woe and attacks him to protect the sheep. In a flash of lightning, he impales Woe on his horns and avenges his mother. Woe's final words are those of a proud father.
よくやった。こうなるのが一匹狼の運命。いつか俺はこんな風にしてどこかでのたれ死にすると思っていたで。しかし俺をやったのがお前でよかった。 俺は喜んでいる。
An innocent lamb tries to approach Chirin, but the other sheep whisk him away to hide. Chirin is confronted with the realization that he will never be able to live among the sheep, but also the only one who loved him is now dead by his own will. Chirin is no longer a sheep, and not fully a wolf, but something unknown. Chirin mourns the death of Woe, realizing that he truly was the only family he had left. He begs forgiveness as he cries for both his dead mother and father, now cursed to be forever alone. Chirin was never seen again, but sometimes you can hear his bell through the wind.
チリンの鈴で思い出す優しいまつげを微笑みよチリンの鈴で思い出すこの世の寂しさまた悲しみ
The biggest change made to Chirin's bell is allowing him to acknowledge that Woe was a father figure before his death. In the picture book, it isn't until after Chirin has defeated Woe that he truly realizes what the wolf had become to him. I find this tragic irony far more fitting in the picture book. However, it is unable to convey the same level of conflict within Chirin during the fight. The animated feature forces him to confront his past as a lamb and his life as a wolf. He has to choose between defending the herd or killing his father figure. In the heat of the moment, he chooses to defend the innocent, but it is a choice that damns him to being forever alone. It is another morally ambiguous ending that could be easily interpreted as overtly cruel or hateful. Chirin is presumably presented with no other options and is forced into a life of violence, a life of war. It's a story that requires context of Yanase's life and the recurring themes of his other works to be fully appreciated. The story directly parallels The Kindly Lion, the first being of an inherently violent creature becoming a docile and kind one. Chirin is a harmless sheep who grows into a fierce killer in order to get revenge. By observing the two together, we can see how Yanase viewed love and revenge. The love between Muku Muku and Buru Buru is able to transcend species, and it is society that refuses to acknowledge said love and ends up killing them. Chirin, however, loses his mother and is filled with nothing but rage. In his quest for vengeance, he forgets of love and family until after he has become a monster and taken the life of the only other creature that truly cared about him, now the very wolf who killed his mother. It is an ironic twist of fate that displays the horrors of revenge and the depths to which we sink in mourning. Woe seemingly acknowledges this and sees himself in Chirin, knowing that the lost lamb has lost his innocence and can never return to the pasture. He therefore provides Chirin with support and care through training, knowing full well that nature will never allow a sheep to become a wolf, just as much as a lion will never be a dog. Chirin survives in the end, unlike Buru Buru, but he is alone with his grief and regret, a fate some may see as worse than death. Chirin's bell parallels the pain and trauma that Yanase felt during and after World War II. His brother's death during the war and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki exposed Yanase to the deaths of countless innocent lives for someone else's cause. It is a grief felt in Chirin's bell, and a horror fully displayed in Little Jumbo. All of Yanase's picture books acted as a means of therapy for him. He was able to work through his struggles with the realities and horrors that he was forced to confront, horrors with no clear explanation or justification. This led to his children's picture books becoming works of complex nuance and moral ambiguity. There is never a right or wrong in the world of Takashi Yanase. There is only reality and idealism. These stories could never be made today, and would never receive such lavish treatments as they did by Mushi and Sanrio. They are stories meant for children that are not easily digestible with no clear moral or message. stories that parents will struggle to explain because they themselves do not truly understand the complexity of human nature. To love and have it torn away with no reason, to hate and destroy what you truly love. These complex dualities are on full display in Yanase's animated adaptations and allow them to transcend beyond the realm of simple animation into great works that will stand the test of time for centuries to come. These works challenge us and make us question our very existence and our reason for being, all behind the guise of a children's storybook. So what happened? Why aren't Joe the dog, Jumbo the elephant, and Chirin the lamb amongst the higher echelon of Sanrio characters? They're clearly adorable, but are they marketable? In an effort to create something timeless, Sanrio also made films so emotionally dense that they couldn't be easily sold like a Disney princess or even a cute little cat girl. Anpanman has been adapted and diluted for a modern audience, but Yanase's other works have not. They are still wholly ingrained in the time in which they were written and the trauma and disillusion that Yanase felt while writing them. These themes transcend their time and connect with audiences, but also confront them with a bleak reality where our only true peace can come through the love of others. So many of these works focus on non-normative relationships that are destroyed by either society or nature, neither of which seem to approve of a lion being raised by a dog in a rose in love, or a lamb hell-bent on becoming a wolf. It conveys the feeling of being ostracized by society and uncomfortable in your own skin, but in the end, these characters are able to find solace in the love of others. Buru Buru the lion is shocked and appalled by his reflection, but his mother, a dog, reassures him that their appearance does not matter. It's their hearts that are the same. Yanase emphasizes the care and empathy for others, be they a different race, gender, or even species. These labels and limitations do not matter, and enforcing them will only drive us to violence and self-hatred. Chirin struggles to fit into some kind of mold, lashing out and hurting those who love him, simply because he doesn't believe nature to be fair. In the end, he alone wanders as a reminder of this division. He becomes a living reminder of the horrors of division, violence, and war. Life is bleak. It begins and ends with death, and it is merely the moments between when we can find comfort from the kinship of others that we can truly be happy. This is why these characters have been sidelined by Sanrio. Their characters and stories are reminders of elements of humanity that we do not like to think about, let alone introduce to children. Parents do not want to have to explain the horrors of war, death, and discrimination to their kids because they don't want to have to think about these facets of life either. However, Yanase's stories weren't concerned with escapism. They were stories to address real issues in a way palatable for children. Anpanman was made to fight famine and poverty, issues he was seeing and experiencing on a daily basis. The Gentle Lion and Rose and Joe become stories of non-normative families torn apart by society for being different. Goodbye Jumbo displays the trauma of being a civilian caught between warring nations with no ability to protect yourself or the ones you love. These are real issues that continue to be relevant decades after their stories were written. They aren't stories meant to emphasize the cruelty of the world, but stories to help us get through said cruelty. To know that we are not alone in our pain, and by feeling said pain, we continue to survive. The stories, just like Chirin's Bell, are reminders of lost innocence and the loneliness of the world. They are meant to bring us together, individuals of different races, genders, creeds, and religions, through a message of peace. Think back to Sanrio's mantra, Nakoyoku, getting along together. It is together that we will find happiness, and these classic Sanrio films encapsulate their motto and make you search yourself for meaning and joy. In the words of Takashi Yanase, sing because you are alive, feel sad because you are alive, hold your hand up to the sun and see the blood flow through it because you are alive. I hope you enjoyed this look at the early works of Sanrio film. I'd really like to talk about more of these films, so if you're interested, then interact with the video. I really want to cover the Unico films and manga because I've been on a bit of a Tezuka kick lately. The physical English translations of the Unico manga are a little expensive, though, and the publisher doesn't have any plans on doing a reprint. Guess I'll just stick to the digital for now. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to support me in creating these essays, then please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/obliviousben. Shout out to my patron Blake Partridge and the artist of the avatars, Moe Chicken. Please check out that Sanrio film article, I've linked it below. It chronicles all of their films, including the live action ones that I've sort of ignored. It's a fantastic article and was a great source. All of my other sources and the full films that I covered today are actually linked below because they're all available on YouTube. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you in the next video.
本当の親子よりももっと仲良し毎日とっても幸せでムクムクはブルブルが好きブルブルはムクムクが好き